Hey everyone, it's Maria, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some perspective changes that I've had over the summer regarding how we educate our kids. I do recognize that not all of you are here for my homeschool videos. Some of you are just here for my reading videos. And I know some of you vice versa. Like there's some who are just here for homeschool and not for my reading. For me, the reason I didn't want to split my channel is because I feel like it kind of cuts off a part of who I am. I feel like so much of what I read goes into how I homeschool, and so much of why I want to homeschool and how I homeschool goes into what I read. And so it just feels weird to separate the two. And so while I understand that maybe you might skip videos or unsubscribe because you feel like I'm doing too much of one or the other, that's why I've chosen to do it. And I hope that's all right with you. If it's not, I guess I'm not the right person for you. All right, so jumping into the changes that I am planning on working on for this school year, it kind of goes into a story of a few years ago. One of my kids, my eldest, was talking to my middle child about some things that we were learning, and he had just learned, I think, something about science, and it reminded him of something from history that we had studied. And he looked at me with this like bright light in his eyes and said, "Mom, it's all connected. It's like all connected." And for me, that is what education of any kind boils down to. I want my kids to walk away feeling like it's all connected and that you can find something you're interested in about any subject that you study. So many people that are adults feel like there's one subject that they just hated. For instance, I've heard several people say lately, "Oh, I don't like math. It's just so hard." Or "I don't like science, it's just too wordy." And it just breaks my heart because while there are parts of math or science that aren't exciting to me necessarily, I see other people get excited about them. And I see math and science play into things that I am interested in. And so to write off a whole discipline just because there's one bit of it you don't like makes me so sad. It's like if you decide to read and you say, I don't like any of that genre. There's probably one book at least of that genre that is a good fit for you. You just have to kind of keep looking or figure out what is it that ties into other things that you're passionate about. And so that's one of the reasons that I wanted to homeschool, because I want the overall arching theme of my children's education to be it's all connected. It's not, oh, we only do history in history class, or we only do science in science class. There are people who don't like history, and I cannot understand, because history is the story of people. It's the story of how we got to how we are, and I just want my kids to know those connections. So that is the first kind of mindset, not change, but focus that I wanted to create for my kids. I feel like the last few years I've kind of gotten away from it a bit. I've started looking more at the list of things that I need them to learn, instead of trying to figure out how to take what they're passionate about and incorporate that into things that I'm trying to teach them. I recently went to a workshop with Julie Bogart, which was amazing. If you are unfamiliar with Julie Bogart, please check her out on YouTube or podcast. She works with Brave Writer. She's the creator of Brave Writer, and she has probably done more for my homeschool perspective than anybody else on the planet. It was exciting to get to meet her. I gave her 3 hugs, and it was awesome. So one of the things she talked about doing was to create kind of a map of sorts when you're doing your planning. So take one of your children's or your interests and put it in the middle. For instance, my middle child loves Pokemon. I do not understand the hype around Pokemon at all. But if I take that and I look at geography, Japan, animation, different games that came out of Pokemon. If I look at what Pokemon Go did for physical fitness and how that was important for people, how it got different people to interact with people they weren't used to interacting with. If I look at Pokemon books and have copy work from there, even though I think it's horribly dull. If I look at, I know that there's the math included in Pokemon, just different things like that. I can take an interest that seemingly is just kind of dumb, in my opinion. It's not dumb. It's important to him, but it's not to me. And figure out how to make it fit with what I'm trying to teach them. One thing that she said that kind of resonated with a book that I wanted to show you guys This is Most Likely to Succeed by Tony Wagner. Tony Wagner has written several books, all of which I've really enjoyed. And he talks about how we need to do better for this generation as far as preparing them for their adulthood by making creativity, communication, and collaboration more of a value. All of his books, I feel like, boil down to that. And she kind of said the same thing that he had said. If you access information that you have learned, but you don't use it, it's not important. Your brain sends a signal saying, I don't really need this. I'm going to dispose of it. The more connections we can make, the more spider webs of interest we can create with a particular fact or idea or concept, the more likely it is that our student will actually retain that information. She said, yeah, kids don't care about preparing themselves for a job that they're going to have 20 years down the line. I don't necessarily feel like I feel a rush to learn things that I need to know 20 years from now. That's why so many adults haven't saved up for retirement. Those are things that you're kind of not thinking about because you're focusing on other things. So you need to tie it into things that are relevant to today. I'm not saying saving for retirement is not important. It was just an example. With kids, so many times we try and teach them something because they need to know it for their job 10 years later, 18 years later, whatever. They are going to get there whenever they need to access that information. Our job is to figure out how to take those things that might pay off later for them and make them relevant for today. For instance, if you're learning about multiplication or area or diameter, have them rearrange their room. Have them do a floor map of what they would like their dream house or their room to look like today, not just like down the road. Other things that you can do, communication is super important. And I feel like I have done a disservice to my kids by not necessarily explaining or letting them understand that I am listening to them and have their ideas in mind. No, over there. So communication is one of those other things that I think we don't focus on. One thing that he said, Tony Wagner said in his book, was we need to do a better job as teachers, not just assessing information that they can recall, but assessing how well they question things, how well they can communicate their ideas and communicate questions to their peers. So much of the rest of the world is focusing on, well, I feel like education is moving towards looking at collaborative efforts, because while we have been training our kids to work independently, and that's kind of the ultimate thing that I want an independent learner. I know that's what I would like. I would love for my kid to say, today I would like to teach myself this, this, and this. But they're not there yet. We need to teach them how to ask questions better, how to play off other people's ideas. Something that she talked about was when one of her children's colleges that he's at, the professors are not called professors, they're called tutors. And the classes kind of work together to teach themselves, and the teacher is there to guide. She talked about making yourself more, Julie Bogart, making yourself more of a learning coach and helping your child along their own journey of learning, not just saying, these are the things that I want you to be able to perform for me. So I've been trying to do more questions, more letting them answer and ask questions of themselves and each other and me. We've been doing some more mapping with reading. And another thing that I've been doing not a great job at is I wanted to have them, I have this ultimate image of my kids being able to sit down at a table and have focused energy just in one spot, which is funny because I'm not like that. I was always the kid in school who the teacher was always saying, Maria, why can you not sit with your feet on the floor? My husband still asks me that. Why can't you sit forward? I was always talking to people. I was always sitting sideways in my chair with my legs up or whatever. So why am I expecting my kids to be able to do the same thing? It's one of the reasons I chose to homeschool, was so I didn't have to feel confined. And while I have not been a person who's just sat them at the table, I've been doing a lot more of it lately than I probably need to. So we've been moving to more outdoor school. I've been letting them walk around, which drives me crazy with the pacing back and forth, but if that's how my oldest communicates better, I'm okay with that. I would rather him feel comfortable learning than feel stifled by me telling him to sit still, because he can't. He's so much like me. His legs are all over the place. Another thing that I've changed my perspective on, which is kind of hypocritical of me, is audiobooks. I have been listening more to audiobooks. I've been a podcast follower for a very long time. But audiobooks I was a little bit later too, just because I felt like it was cheating. I know a lot of readers feel like that, and it's dumb. It's not cheating. But I feel like we would do audiobooks in the car with the kids. But the idea of them just spending their own time listening to audiobooks, I was hesitant to do, because I wanted them to sit down and read an actual book. Now, they just don't. My middle child will, but my oldest child just has a really hard time sitting through and reading a book. I don't know what it is about his stamina. He can do picture books fine. He can do shorter chapter books, graphic novels. He loves doing. But when it comes to sitting, chapter books just really intimidate him. He will listen to an audiobook for 8 hours on end. I walked in on him 3:30 in the morning sneaking Ramona Quimby, the entire series that he's heard like 35 times. 3:30 in the morning. So I know he has stamina to listen to stories and process information. He recalls the information really well. He'll tell me lines from it that he likes. He can talk about me about the ideas in the books. So I need to be a little bit more flexible to allow them to do learning the way they enjoy. And he's much more of an audio learner. So I've been letting them do audiobooks, which is quite a big transition for me. Another thing is just to add more fun. I have not been as much fun lately, I don't think. I feel like we had a very stressful year of health surprises and moves for my in-laws and just a lot of changes. And it was really hard year. So I'm trying to find my fun again. And that means copy work from the Alexander Hamilton lyrics. That means doing some of your writing work on black paper with Sharpie metallics. It means doing more games again, because I hadn't been doing as many. It means pulling up YouTube videos of scientists doing different things that maybe I haven't had the energy to do myself, but exposing them to how exciting learning can be for other people so that something ignites in them. It means doing more cooking and baking and projects and not just school stuff. I feel like I've been a lot more teacher than mom, and I don't want to do that anymore. So that's another perspective change that I've had lately. Narration looking different. It doesn't mean sitting down and having them copy everything. Sometimes it means them telling me and I write it down. Sometimes it means them journaling about it in their little graphic novel blank books, or doing a video of it. They love doing videos. Since I have a YouTube channel, they think it's doing the coolest thing when they can do a video about something they've learned. And they always start off with, "Hey guys," just like I do, and I think it's adorable. So I'm trying to do better about fun, about collaboration, about communicating and being patient, because it certainly is not easy. And the last thing is just to model it for myself. I used to do a lot more online classes, a lot more crafting on my own, just more experimentation of my own life. And I feel like between social media and Pinterest and Etsy, I have lost a little bit of my own learning. And so I'm trying to find a little bit more of that back again. So those are some other things I'm doing. Cross disciplines, watching movies in other languages is something my middle child's been asking for desperately. And I think those are great resources between technology and to weave different things together. And so the overall thing, I guess, I want you to take away from this very long video is try and show how many connections exist in learning, and show your own excitement about the connections, because I feel like that is a great way to create a learning environment for your kids, and probably to rejuvenate some of the energy that you might have lost too. So anyway, this is your permission slip to kind of mix it up and change your perspective. Again, Tony Wagner's book, all of this one's Most Likely to Succeed, Preparing Our Kids for the Innovation Era. He's also done Global Achievement Gap as well as Creating Innovators, which were very good books I really liked. Julie Bogart's a great person to follow, and I'll link her below. Yeah, hopefully you'll hear more from me about what I'm doing this year, but I wanted to share that with you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.